Welcome to Growing Bremerton Together with Mayor Patty Lent. My special guest today is Kurt Wiest, Executive Director of the Bremerton Housing Authority. Stay with me. Welcome to Growing Bremerton Together with Mayor Patty Lent. I have a special guest today, and it's Kurt Wiest. He is the Executive Director of the Bremerton Housing Authority. And we're going to learn about him and what's happening within our city. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And I first want to tell the audience how you arrived in Bremerton and a little of your background.
Well, thank you. I have worked in affordable housing my entire 30-year career. I came to the Bremerton Housing Authority in late 2006 as the executive director. I had been previously working for almost 20 years in the San Francisco Bay Area for the Alameda County Housing Authority, and before that I had worked for Housing Authority in Salem, Oregon, and began my career with the Salt Lake City, Utah Housing Authority.
So you were born in Utah?
I was born in Portland, Oregon.
Oh,
so
Portland.
Coming to Bremerton was coming back to the Northwest for me.
We're glad to have you.
But I did attend college and graduate school in Utah.
Mm-hmm. And how did you find out about the position of the Bremerton Housing Authority?
Got a call. A recruiter contacted me and he said that he had the perfect job for me, and I told him I appreciated that, but I'm not interested. I really love what I'm doing. And he invited me to come up on behalf of the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners, and it was a beautiful day in July, and the rest is history. Here I am. And as I got to Bremerton, I realized that this was a terrific opportunity. It's a wonderful organization, and it was a time of great change for the Bremerton Housing Authority. And I saw it as an opportunity, sort of a capstone for my career as a city planner, as an affordable housing professional. This is a perfect opportunity and a beautiful community to practice my profession.
So you arrived in 2006, and there is a plan for a redevelopment of an area that was very old. West Park is as much a part of Bremerton as the Naval Yard, because it was an era where we grew very fast, and hundreds, if not thousands, of houses were built to accommodate the shipyard and the war efforts. So you have a 75th anniversary of existence.
That's right.
And you're planning some big celebrations. Tell us a little bit about that 1941 or 39 when West Park was first started.
Sure. Really, the history of housing authorities nationwide begins in 1937, when Congress passed the U.S. Housing Act. 2 years later, in 1939, the Washington legislature passed their Housing Act, which allowed for the creation of local public housing authorities. A public housing authority is simply a municipal corporation whose sole purpose is to provide safe, decent, and affordable housing for persons of low income. In July 1940, the city of Bremerton, the form of government at that time was a city commission.
3 commissioners.
And the 3 commissioners debated and felt that the time was urgent to create their own public housing authority, as it would allow them to access federal funds and meet what they described as the emergent need for safe, decent, and affordable housing for persons of low income in Bremerton who were coming here to be a part of the defense buildup. So on July 17th, 1940, the Housing Authority was created, and they were off to the races immediately. Their first project was called West Park. They broke ground in November of 1940, and they had a dedicatory service and began moving residents in on July 17th, 1941. A year to the date from when the Housing Authority was created, and 150 days from when they began construction. They completed 600 homes on the site that was formerly known as West Park. And that was just the beginning. Then the Housing Authority was involved in the construction of over 6,000 additional housing units in the city of Bremerton during the period of time 1940 through 1944.
And that's East Park,
East Park, West
Bremerton
Park,
Gardens,
Sinclair Park, which is where CENTCOM is now located, View Ridge Village, much of the land where Harrison Hospital now sits had dormitories. The Sheridan Park Community Center was developed by the Bremerton Housing Authority. The shopping center adjacent to it was built by the Housing Authority. There was just this tremendous construction activity during those war years, 1940 to 1944, to meet the needs of housing for shipyard workers. And what's really remarkable to me is the population of Bremerton went from a little over 15,000 in 1940. By 1945, the population was over 80,000. And of that 80,000, there was nearly 40,000 that were working in the shipyard. And there's just this tremendous need for housing that was safe, and it was and decent and affordable for those that were working at the shipyard. And the Housing Authority was given the primary responsibility of creating that housing. I know that it was others' responsibility, their patriotic duty to convert their garage or their chicken coop, but I think
we
there was
had tents all over Evergreen Rotary Park.
There was, I think, a sense of those involved in the Housing Authority that we can do much better than chicken coops and tents. And much of that housing was considered duration housing. There was no sense of how long the war was going to last. But much of that housing now, 70 years later, is still in various parts of Bremerton, although the West Park project, the very first project built by the Housing Authority, was demolished in 2010.
When you arrived, there was a plan, but it wasn't really initiated. So I believe that you had some fingerprints on this first plan, working with the city, working with permitting, and an entire 83 acres, 83 acres that you really needed to demolish that housing. It had grown and it had been, when you have low income, oftentimes the upkeep isn't as good as you'd like it to be on an annual basis. So when you got here and you needed to see where you could make that change, I know you worked very closely with the city.
There had been plans that had been talked about for nearly a decade prior to my arrival in 2006, and I don't want to take credit for the great work that was done by many, many other individuals and citizens in the city of Bremerton. The major work of discussion about, well, what do we want to have happen with this 83-acre site? Recognizing that it had long outlasted its original purposes, and there was a sense that we needed to create something different on that parcel of land, and it needed to be something that was like every other neighborhood in Bremerton and every other community in the United States, where you had a mix of housing types, you had a mix of housing uses. It was not we weren't going to continue to have 100% low-income housing on this 83-acre site. We wanted to have something that was much more of a design that would fit in with the rest of the community. So the charrettes were held and a design plan was developed. And then by the time I arrived, they needed to have somebody who said, all right, let's do it. And whether I was the one foolish enough to do that or smart enough, that's open for debate. But with a great team of staff and developers and tremendous support from the City Council and the Mayor's office and city staff, we began execution of that master plan for the redevelopment of West Park. And between 2007 and 2013, we were able to accomplish the majority of the work that the Housing Authority had designed to do. And the remaining elements of that master plan will involve the private sector and private sector investment, which continues even now.
And there's more than just housing. There's Winco is there.
We have the grocery store.
A grocery store, and then a bank is coming in. And we've got space identified strictly for retail. So some of the things that would be in any neighborhood. The nicest thing when I became mayor is to see a neighborhood from start to finish. In an older city that's over 100 years old, you don't get to find a brand new neighborhood. You find neighborhoods that are being refurbished, or like our own city, that revitalization, but to have everything brand new. I know I was part of, we completely took away the streets. So we vacated all the streets except one, and allowed the new construction to come in and have the streets fit where the neighborhoods were going to be that made most sense.
Mm-hmm.
In order to afford that, there's another part of what your Bremerton Housing Authority does, and that's your service.
Mm-hmm. We have a division called Contract Management Services.
Contract management.
And it's a division of the Bremerton Housing Authority that performs work outside of Bremerton,
Mm-hmm.
and we do it under contract with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. We've competed for state contracts in a variety of states, and we perform work for HUD in these states. It is work that builds on the expertise of our existing Bremerton Housing Authority staff
Mm-hmm.
in terms of accounting work and management of elements of affordable housing. And our contract management services staff bring in revenue
Mm-hmm.
that is used to support and sustain our ongoing redevelopment of West Park into Bay Vista, the new
Mm-hmm.
community, as well as other initiatives that we have engaged in other parts of Bremerton, so that no longer is the Bremerton Housing Authority known and identified as being the manager of a single 600-unit low-income housing project on the west side of Bremerton, but we have other affordable properties for seniors, for disabled, for families, new units in the Bay Vista neighborhood on the side of the former
In
West Park.
Manette.
We have projects in Manette, in parts of East Bremerton, scattered all throughout the city of Bremerton. And I think it has made for a healthier city of Bremerton. And I think that it also has provided greater housing opportunities and opportunities for economic self-sufficiency for those that we provide housing for. It is respectful. It's respectful of the residents in our properties. It's respectful of the neighbors and the neighborhoods where our projects are located. As you drive through the city of Bremerton, we don't have signs in front of our developments that say this is public housing or this is low-income housing for and managed by the Bremerton Housing Authority. But as people will drive past our projects, our developments, they are the nicest looking properties
well
on
kept.
in the neighborhood, we think. And they're very well kept and very well managed. And it's a credit to the staff of the Bremerton Housing Authority and our Board of Commissioners and the great relationship we have with the city of Bremerton.
So again, when you started and West Park had all of those older homes, your office was actually there on that complex, in that neighborhood. You moved when you were demolishing and making it ready for the new neighborhood. You moved to East Bremerton, rented some space. You found an opportunity and came back to the city, and you were able to buy the Windermere building that was available. So you're in the city where you need to be. But there are two housing agencies. Yours is what you take care of the city of Bremerton. The other one is called Housing Kitsap, and that other housing has the entire county. And they, it's not just Bremerton, but they're the ones that are responsible for some of the things that have been rebuilt in Bremerton. I know I was a county commissioner when they built the harbor side. That was done through their financing. And one of the things I admire your Board of Commissioners and your leadership is that debt service. You've been able to take and use the revenue that you generate to support so that you don't have bonding or issues where sustainability is really exciting for what's happening with the housing that you're providing.
Right. We're very careful about the resources that we are given, either through the earnings from our contract management services division or from the rents that we receive from residents or fees that we receive for management of our HUD programs. We're very careful in how we allocate those dollars. They are a precious resource, and we want to be wise stewards of the money that we receive.
Your Board of Commissioners, are there 7 on your board?
We have 6 board members.
6 board members and someone from housing.
Right. Of those 6, one of them is a resident commissioner who is appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. And the other 5 commissioners are also nominated by you and confirmed by the city council. And these are Commissioners, very much like the original 6 board members back in 1940, who were visionary individuals who saw the great need in the city of Bremerton and carried out a well-crafted plan to meet the housing needs during the war years. Our current board and previous boards, they're very in tune with what the citizens of the city of Bremerton need in terms of providing a safe, decent, and affordable housing for citizens of Bremerton.
I think you have actually the first original. Is that the
I do.
bylaws or the charter?
This is the very first annual report for the Bremerton Housing Authority.
Mm-hmm.
It's a report by the Housing Authority of the City of Bremerton, Washington, and it is a report on the work that they did from 1940 through 1943. And it's remarkable in its narrative about the efforts that they went through and the cooperation they had with Department of Defense, the City of Bremerton, and others that had a vested interest in the success of the Housing Authority.
You know, because it's been 75 years, you're planning the month of June and July a great celebration, and you've put these old photographs and posters and things that can take people back to the time when this first originated, when they walk through your current building. And do you have special things? Is it an open invitation for people to come and see you?
Right. What we've created in our central office at 600 Park Avenue is permanent museum quality displays of the history of the Bremerton Housing Authority. We invite the public to come in during office hours and see these displays. They're beautiful, and they tell a remarkable story of the history of BHA, particularly during the period of 1940 to 1945. And then sort of the capstone is the work that we've done over the last 5 years, as we have taken that same energy and enthusiasm and redeveloped much of our properties, particularly at Bay Vista. We do have a celebration that we'd like to invite you and
the audience,
the citizens of Bremerton, and current and former employees of the Bremerton Housing Authority, current and former residents, anyone that has any connection with BHA. Come celebrate with us on Friday, July the 17th, from 4 in the afternoon until 7 p.m. at our offices at 600 Park Avenue. It is a 75-year reunion, as what I like to characterize it as. There'll be no speeches, there'll be no great fanfare. It's just an opportunity to come and celebrate and renew friendships and acquaintances that we've developed over 75 years.
What will be fun is that we know the Kitsap Sun will cover this story, because finding out someone that is maybe the oldest person coming back to see it, or someone that came the longest distance. Bremerton has such a name for itself. We have lots of reunions for the shipyard, and so I'm glad that you're calling this celebration a reunion. Your commissioners also have a standard and a quality. So I notice when people come to Winco or they drive by, that color scheme and that style fits with the rest of the neighborhood, so that nothing stands out as an individual. It is a neighborhood, and it's going to continue to be that. We've got some new things that are coming to that neighborhood. One of them that I wanted you to talk about is Carl's Jr.'s.
Right. We are nearing closing on a sale of land to a developer who's going to build a Carl's Jr. We're excited about that, and we expect that to close the end of this month.
And so new things happening up there in that new neighborhood. Another thing I want to touch on, Kurt, while we're discussing, is you've gotten lots of awards. Awards not only for your contract services because of the skill of your employees, but also one of your complexes won an award because it was a senior housing that had different steps, even to Alzheimer's as far as a unit. And there were only 2 in the United States at the time that you built that. Can you tell us a little bit about that award?
Yes, this is the building is for Bay Vista Commons, which was phase 1 of the redevelopment of West Park into Bay Vista. It was built in 2007, and it is affordable assisted living. You rarely will have the word affordable in front of assisted living, but it is owned by the Housing Authority. It is managed by our partner, Martha and Mary, and they are terrific administrators of senior living. There are 72 units there, 60 are independent assisted living units, and then there's a 12 unit memory care portion of the building. In 2009, we received an award of excellence from the National Association of Housing and Redevelopment officials for the design of this building. And as you mentioned, it's one of 2 affordable assisted living facilities in the entire United States. We've been contacted by others who would like to replicate it, and I give them some caution that it's very, very difficult to make it work financially, but we've been successful with that, and I give great credit to our management entity, Martha and Mary. They're a terrific administrator of assisted living.
And then your neighborhood also attracted out-of-state financing and construction. So when we get somebody from out of state to build a complex, the Pearl. And before the Pearl even opened, there was a waiting list. And how many units, are in the Pearl?
There's 83 units at the Pearl, and one of the great features about this redevelopment of West Park into Bay Vista, we had an opportunity to create different elements on this 83-acre site, where it was formerly 100% low-income bungalow-style housing units. We've created different design elements, and these came out of the charrettes and other elements of the design phases of the redevelopment. We decided that we wanted to create a campus of senior living on a portion of the 83-acre site. With one portion of that is the Bay Vista Commons assisted living building. We had an existing 60-unit independent living building for seniors called the Firs. And then we, during the redevelopment process, we sold land to American Baptist Homes of the West, a major developer of affordable senior housing out of California. And they acquired a grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to create this 83 units senior independent living building called the Pearl on Oyster Bay. So between the Pearl and the Firs and Bay Vista Commons, we have 3 contiguous buildings for our seniors, and they can kind of transition from one building to the other as their frailty increase.
And then Habitat for Humanity has built some homes, and there's some other units that have been built. So you do have that mixture of different types. It's a delightful place. You've got a playground. I know there's open spaces, so we're looking for more retail, more things that make it a complex, complete concept.
We currently have 30 single-family home owner-occupied homes on the Bay Vista site, and it's platted for an additional 150 or more single-family homes. We're just waiting for private investment, a developer that will come in and buy those lots and develop single-family homes for individuals that want to be homeowners and live in that neighborhood. As well as there's also available land for market-rate multifamily apartments, and then, as you mentioned previously, some commercial land. All of that yet to be developed, and we do have a park, Periwinkle Park, that's been developed, and over time it will be surrounded by residential units, but right now it's improved and available for not only the residents of Bay Vista but the surrounding neighborhood to come and enjoy that.
That Bay Vista name, it came from Oyster Bay because so many of those windows overlook Bay Vista, and a nice part of all of those different housing concepts, the ones that you're responsible for, all have a balcony. They all have where you can step outside, and as you said, when you arrived in July, it was a beautiful day. There isn't a prettier place to be than in Bremerton and see the mountains, both ranges, Olympics and the Cascades, and to see the water that surrounds us. I think that is something, again, the elevation and the pride when someone has self-respect and they move into a complex that they never thought they could afford, and they're living there. It raises their self-esteem. Winco has hired many of the people that live in the community around them, so it's been such a win-win proposition for us.
One of the design features for the Bay Vista redevelopment site was to make it a pedestrian-friendly community. And so with retail close by, residents in the neighborhood can walk to the grocery store. There's other commercial activities along Kitsap Way that they can walk to. So it really has, I think, achieved the design goals that were part of that charrette process early on in designing and answering the question, well, what do we want to have happen if we have an opportunity to redevelop this entire site?
And it's been good for the city. It's helped us in you taking all the responsibility in that segment. It allows us to concentrate on the downtown, some of our other neighborhoods that we're all trying to bring that same pride back.
And another element too is you've taken land that was off the tax rolls, and now you have homeowners there, and you have retail activity, commercial uses, and it's bringing tax revenue to the city.
It's a good thing. We're very, very glad to have you, and I'm happy to have you as my guest.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this segment. Join us next time, growing Bremerton together with Mayor Patty Lent.